Welcome to Therapy by Choice podcast. My name is Robin Vance. I am your host for this podcast and an associate marriage and family therapist working with individuals, couples, and families. My therapeutic services are offered through Therapy by Choice, which is a private practice with offices located in San Jose and Palo Alto, California. On this podcast, we offer educational information on a variety of mental health topics. We speak to specialists in the field, and we answer your questions. We focus on helping you navigate life's challenges and offer easy-to-follow practical advice and opinions. Welcome, and thank you for tuning into this episode of Therapy by Choice podcast. I'm your host, Robin Vance. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about attachment styles. And attachment styles are something that can affect how we connect with others in really profound ways. Whether in romantic relationships, friendships, or family dynamics, understanding your attachment style can bring a lot of clarity about how you behave in relationships and why certain patterns might keep showing up. So, if you've ever wondered why you act a certain way with people you care about, this episode is definitely for you. And as always here on Therapy by Choice podcast, I'll be breaking everything down with relatable examples to make it super easy to understand and apply in your own life. What are attachment styles? You may have heard of attachment theory. And attachment theory was first developed by John Bowlby in the 1950s, and it's based on the idea that our early relationships with caregivers lay the groundwork for how we interact with others throughout our lives. Bowlby's work highlighted that we each develop a pattern of attachment in childhood that affects how we approach intimacy and connection as adults. Now, there are 4 main attachment styles, and keyword there, main: secure, anxious, avoidant, and disorganized. Each style influences how we react to emotions, conflict, and closeness with others. Let's start with secure attachment. People with secure attachment styles generally feel more comfortable with closeness and independence. They trust others easily, communicate their needs effectively, and are comfortable being vulnerable in relationships. They also have healthy boundaries, and they're good at handling conflict. These are the folks who can have a disagreement without it escalating into a full-blown fight, and who don't feel the need to second-guess their partner's intentions. Let's take a look at a vignette. I want you to think about Sarah and Jake. They've been dating for 2 years, and while they definitely have their differences, when an issue arises, they talk it out calmly. Sarah feels comfortable expressing her needs, and Jake listens without getting defensive. And even when life gets busy, they make time for each other, and they both feel secure in the relationship. There's a natural trust between them, and both have a strong sense of self that they bring into the relationship. Next, if you've ever found yourself feeling a little more on edge in relationships, you might identify with the anxious attachment style. People with this style crave closeness, but they're often haunted by the fear of abandonment. They might feel their partner's love is conditional or constantly need reassurance that they're not going to be left. This leads to a lot of emotional ups and downs, and they can become preoccupied with their partner's behavior or distant reactions. Let's take Lily, who's been dating Mark for a few months. Lily feels the need to text Mark every time she's feeling uncertain, and when he doesn't reply right away, she starts spiraling. She wonders if he's losing interest, even though there's no evidence to suggest that. Mark reassures her time and time again, but Lily's constant need for reassurance creates tension in the relationship. She's deeply invested, but her fears keep her on the edge. On the other hand, we have avoidant attachment. People with this style tend to value independence and often struggle with intimacy. They find it challenging to open up emotionally and may pull away when things start to feel too close or too intense. They may feel like they're better off on their own, or when they do enter relationships, they tend to keep their partner at an arm's length. Tom and Rachel have been dating for a while, but Tom is definitely more on the avoidant side. When Rachel wants to talk about their future, Tom goes quiet, and when things get emotional, he often retreats. Rachel can't help but feel frustrated. She longs for emotional connection, but Tom's response is to create distance, making Rachel feel like she's doing something wrong, when in reality, Tom just struggles with emotional vulnerability. And finally, there's disorganized attachment. Now, this style is a bit of a mix and can often be the result of childhood trauma or inconsistent caregiving. People with disorganized attachment styles have a hard time trusting others, but at the same time, they crave closeness. Their behavior can be unpredictable, and they may swing between seeking intimacy and pushing others away. And it's this back and forth that can create a lot of confusion in relationships. Let's take a look at a vignette. Emily feels an intense pull towards her partner, but every time he tries to get closer, she pushes him away. She's terrified of being abandoned, but at the same time, she struggles with trusting that he won't hurt her. Her partner is often left confused by conflicting signals. One moment she wants closeness, and the next she pulls away. And she's unsure on how to deal with the intensity of her emotions. So now that we've taken a look at the 4 main attachment styles, you may be asking yourself, and you may have even thought, maybe I'm secure or maybe I'm avoidant. So how is it that you figure out your own attachment style? Problem is, it's not always straightforward, but starting with some self-reflection can help. I want you to think about your earliest relationships. How did your parents or primary caregivers respond to your needs? Did they offer support when you were upset, or were they inconsistent? These early experiences play a huge role in shaping how we approach relationships later on. Next, take a look at how you behave in your current relationships. Do you often worry about being abandoned, even without clear reason? Do you tend to withdraw when things start to get too close or emotional? Recognizing these patterns can give you a clue about your attachment style. And of course, this last one is what I do with my clients. There are a lot of online quizzes and assessments that can help you get a clearer picture of your tendencies. But remember, your style might change depending on the relationship or the situation. And it's more about understanding your default patterns than rigidly fitting into one box. So, now that we figured out maybe how you identify your attachment style, what are the strengths and challenges of each style? Each of these 4 attachment styles does come with its own set of strengths and challenges. For example, secure attachment is often seen as the healthiest. Secure individuals tend to have balanced, positive relationships. They know how to communicate, respect their partner's needs, and handle disagreements without drama. The challenge here, though, is secure individuals might sometimes take their relationship security for granted. They may assume things will always be smooth sailing without putting in as much work. Anxious individuals, as we saw with Lily, are deeply empathetic and invested in their relationships. They're passionate and loving, but they can also become overly dependent, seeking constant reassurance. And this can put strain on both themselves and their partner, who might start feeling overwhelmed. For people with avoidant attachment, independence is a big strength. They tend to be self-sufficient and capable of handling their own emotions. The downside, though, is that they may find it difficult to form close, emotionally intimate relationships. And this can leave them feeling isolated or misunderstood, especially when their partner desires more attention. Finally, those with disorganized attachment can bring a lot of empathy and emotional depth to relationships, but their behavior can be confusing or erratic. The biggest challenge is the inner conflict. They want intimacy, but the fear of being hurt or abandoned is so strong that it leads them to push people away. Now, next, I want to also talk about something that's been trending as a bit of a buzzword lately, with talks of the soft life and protecting peace, cutting cords, etc. You've probably heard the word detachment floating around a lot lately, especially on social media. Again, people talking about detaching to protect your peace or not being too attached. But as a therapist, when we talk about detachment, we should really slow down and take a look and look what this actually means. Detachment at its core is actually about creating emotional space. It's the ability to step back, regulate yourself, and not get swept up in someone else's emotions or behaviors. In a healthy way, detachment can look like saying, hey, I care about you, but I'm also responsible for my own well being. It's not cold or uncaring, it's about maintaining boundaries and self awareness. But there is also unhealthy detachment, which can look like emotional numbness, shutting people out, or avoiding vulnerability. That kind of detachment comes from fear of being hurt, rejected, or losing control. Now, where this connects with attachment styles is actually really interesting. Attachment styles describe patterns we develop in relationships, how we connect, depend on, and trust others. So while attachment is about how we bond, detachment is about how we create distance or space. In some ways, they're actually two sides of the same coin. For example, someone with an avoidant attachment style often uses detachment to feel safe. They might convince themselves they don't need anyone. Someone with an anxious attachment style struggles with detachment. They want closeness so much that space feels like rejection. And someone who's securely attached can detach when needed without losing connection. They can hold boundaries but stay emotionally available. So, detachment isn't inherently good or bad. It's really about why and how we do it. And healthy detachment supports secure attachment. It allows us to stay grounded and connected without losing ourselves. So, how to change negative attachment patterns and how do you heal? If you've recognized yourself in any of these patterns, don't worry. It's completely possible to change, with the first step being awareness. Start paying attention to your reactions in relationships. Are you leaning into anxious behaviors or do you tend to avoid intimacy? Recognizing these patterns are showing up gives you the space to make different choices. Therapy can be a huge help, especially with attachment-focused theories like cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, or emotionally focused therapy, EFT. Working with a therapist can help you understand the root causes of your attachment style and provide strategies for change. Another way to begin shifting your attachment patterns is by practicing healthier boundaries. Learning how to balance intimacy with personal space is crucial. If you tend to be anxious, you can work on becoming more self-soothing and less reliant on others for validation. If you're avoidant, you can practice leaning into vulnerability, even when it feels uncomfortable. And for those of us with disorganized attachment, it's about learning to manage those conflicting feelings. Finding ways to self-soothe and gradually opening up in a safe environment can help break the cycle of emotional push and pull. Understanding your attachment style can truly transform the way you navigate relationships. So whether you have secure, anxious, avoidant, or disorganized attachment, acknowledging your tendencies and taking steps to heal can bring more balance and connection in your life. If you recognize some of these patterns in yourself, I want you to know that change is possible. It does take time, but with awareness, effort, and possibly some professional support, you can shift these behaviors and create healthier, more fulfilling relationships. I want to thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of Therapy by Choice podcast. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast, and follow me on my social medias at Therapy by Choice podcast. My name is Robin Vance. Take good care. While we hope to provide insight and education, our podcast does not replace therapy, and listening to our podcast does not establish a therapeutic relationship. If you or someone you know are in crisis, please call the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by dialing 988.